Hello, beautiful Libra. This is Zodiac Whisper Tarot, and what you're about to hear isn't just another horoscope, it's a divine message, whispered from the universe to your soul right here, right now. Let me ask you something that may stop you in your tracks. What if the very thing you've been praying for has already been set in motion and you're here because you're about to receive it? I don't believe in coincidences. And if you're listening to this, neither does your soul. There's a reason you landed here, in this exact moment. You might think you clicked out of curiosity, but deep down, some part of you already knew something powerful is coming. Maybe you've been sensing it. A subtle shift. A ripple in your heart that doesn't have a name yet. That something is your inner compass finally tuning into a miracle that's already unfolding in the spiritual realm, waiting to break through into your physical world. So, let's pause. Just for a moment. Place your hand gently over your heart. Take a deep breath, not to escape but to arrive. Right here. With me. Now ask yourself quietly. What if this is the sign I've been asking for? Because Libra, you weren't guided here to stay the same. You were brought here to awaken, to remember the truth that's always lived within you. A truth that says, you are not waiting for the blessing, you are becoming the space where blessings land. And before we go any further, allow me to take a sacred pause to thank you. Let me express my deepest, most heartfelt gratitude for your presence. Every like, every comment you leave, every time you share or subscribe, you're not just supporting a channel, you're building something rare. A spiritual family. A community where the quiet, intuitive voices like yours are finally heard. You are the reason Zodiac Whisper Tarot exists, and your energy is what keeps these sacred messages flowing. So please, do me this favor. If you're already feeling the pulse of something deeper stirring, if even one sentence here feels like it's speaking to your exact situation, stay with me to the very end. Because what the universe is about to show you today is nothing short of breathtaking. Comment below a number that's been repeating around you. Maybe it's 7, 11, 22, or maybe it's something uniquely yours. There's no wrong answer. Just trust it. That number may be your activation code, the divine fingerprint that confirms. Yes, this message is mine. And now take a breath. Because we're about to go deeper. Much deeper. And what we uncover together could very well be the miracle your soul has been patiently waiting for. There's a moment in every Libra's life, subtle yet persistent, when the illusion of balance begins to tremble. It's not always loud. It doesn't always come with chaos. Sometimes, it begins with a soft internal question: am I living in peace, or simply performing it for the sake of others? This is the moment the soul speaks louder than the persona. And if you're here, it's likely that your soul has begun whispering that question already. Astrologically, Libra is ruled by Venus, the planet of harmony, love, and beauty. But Venus doesn't only crave external beauty, she seeks equilibrium of the heart. And when this equilibrium is out of alignment, Libra doesn't explode. Libra adjusts, bends, compromises, smiles while swallowing discomfort. But over time, that inner tilt grows too heavy to ignore. And now, cosmic energy, particularly from fellow air signs like Aquarius and Gemini, is stirring up the mental winds, asking you to see instead of suppress. The presence of the Justice card in this reading is not coincidental. It is the signature of Libra itself, the sword and scales, both instruments of truth. Justice isn't about punishment. It's about clarity. It arrives not to disrupt your calm, but to offer you the chance to create a more authentic peace, one that doesn't require you to disappear in order to keep the room quiet. When this card shows up, it calls you inward with a firm but gentle invitation. Real balance begins when your own heart is no longer left out of the equation. You may be feeling torn right now between your own needs and the expectations of others in relationships, in family roles, even in your career. But here's the cosmic truth: if you are the only one doing the bending, there is no real balance. There is only sacrifice. And while kindness is holy, martyrdom isn't required for growth. You can be loving and still say no. You can be compassionate and still walk away. The highest form of harmony is not found in silence but in alignment. This is a time for reflection, not on what looks harmonious from the outside, but on what feels true on the inside. And truth, even when inconvenient, is never cruel. In fact, it is the most loving frequency you can embody. Take a moment to write down one relationship, situation, or dynamic in your life that you've been trying to keep pretty, one that's been held together more by fear of conflict than by shared truth. Ask yourself honestly, does this truly honor my heart? Or have I mistaken stillness for respect? There's a quiet strength in choosing integrity over appearances. And there's a quiet miracle in the courage to let go of something that no longer reflects your inner light. Remember, the divine doesn't expect you to be agreeable at the cost of your soul. You were created to carry truth, not to dilute it. And sometimes, the most spiritual thing you can do is simply be honest with yourself. Let this be a turning point. A reminder that what you choose today echoes far beyond today. And as someone once said, not everything that is broken is yours to fix, especially if it breaks you in the process. So don't rush to restore the mask of harmony. Instead, pause. Breathe. And honor the moment the mask slips off, because beneath it lies the beginning of something profoundly real. Sometimes, what feels like stillness is actually a sacred rearrangement happening beneath the surface. And for someone like you, dear Libra, so naturally attuned to movement, to balance, to creating harmony through motion, the pause can feel like confusion. But it's not confusion. It's recalibration. It's the universe asking you to trust a rhythm that isn't driven by the approval of others or the pace of the world around you, but by something much quieter and more honest: your own alignment. Right now, life may feel like it's on hold. Things may not be moving forward the way you expected. Conversations may feel unfinished, decisions unclear, relationships suspended in midair. But what if this pause isn't a detour but the path itself? The energy of the Hanged Man is not passive, it's intentional. It doesn't come to punish, but to offer a shift in perception. It asks you to see differently so you can live more truthfully. And that's never wasted time. Astrologically, Libra is ruled by Venus, a planet of grace, but also of truth and beauty. Venus teaches that harmony without honesty isn't real peace, it's performance. And the Hanged Man comes as a cosmic invitation for you to stop performing and start perceiving. What is it you've been trying to hold together, not because it nourishes you, but because it makes others feel comfortable? What belief, habit, or connection are you clinging to simply because letting go would disrupt someone else's image of you? The power of this moment lies not in what you do next, but in what you're willing to finally see without rushing to fix it. In many ways, this is a season of soul decluttering. A time to release roles that aren't rooted in truth. You don't have to be the peacemaker at the cost of your own clarity. You don't have to be the one who always bends. You don't need to keep being easy to love, if that means abandoning your needs in the process. You are allowed to pause. To exhale. To not have an answer yet. And maybe this pause, this divine standstill, is your chance to ask a better question. Am I living in alignment with what's real for me? If the answer is unclear, let that be okay too. Start small. Take just one day where you don't pressure yourself to solve anything, just listen. Turn down the noise of external expectation, and turn up the volume of your own intuition. Let journaling become your mirror. Try asking yourself softly, am I living honestly, or am I just being agreeable? Not to judge yourself, but to come home to yourself. You were not created to live a version of yourself that's only digestible to others. There is strength in your stillness, and there is insight in your surrender. Even the teachings of the sacred remind us that surrender is not weakness, it is wisdom. To wait without fear. To pause without guilt. To let the answers come on their own terms rather than forcing clarity on a timeline that was never yours to begin with. So if it feels like nothing is happening, remember, roots grow deepest in silence. The transformation you crave is already happening, but it needs you to stop moving just long enough to let it finish. And when it does, when the clarity arrives, you will not have to chase it. It will rise within you like something you've always known. Because the miracle you're waiting for often begins the moment you stop trying to force one. There is something quietly revolutionary about choosing to nurture yourself not as a luxury, not as a reward for productivity, but as the foundation of everything that truly matters. And right now, Libra, you are being called to reclaim that truth. After moving through the internal unrest and the sacred pause that life has asked of you, you're now entering a phase where your own care, softness, and receptivity become the most powerful tools you possess. This isn't about escape. It's about creation. Because all miracles, the real ones, begin with what you choose to cultivate from within. The Empress, your guiding archetype at this stage of the journey, is not simply a figure of beauty or grace, she is the embodiment of abundance born from alignment. Her strength isn't loud, but it's undeniable. She doesn't chase. She magnetizes. She doesn't prove. She grows. And perhaps most importantly, she never withholds nourishment from herself just to appear strong to others. In this moment, her energy whispers to you gently but clearly, it's time to make yourself the center of your own care again. For someone like you, ruled by Venus, always aware of others' needs, always seeking balance, self-nourishment can feel foreign, even selfish. But it isn't. In fact, it's sacred responsibility. Because when your cup is empty, everything you give becomes obligation. But when your cup overflows, what you offer to others becomes blessing. And that's what this phase is inviting you into, a soft, powerful overflow that is born from tending to the garden within you. Financially and professionally, this may be a time where external rewards feel delayed or even invisible. But energy doesn't lie. The work you are doing now to care for your body, to revisit dreams you've quietly tucked away, to honor the efforts you've poured into your journey. It is not unnoticed. What you give to yourself today will echo back to you in ways you can't yet predict. A new opportunity, a surprise connection, an opening that seems to appear from nowhere. These are the kinds of miracles that are activated when you begin showing up for yourself without needing permission. Wear something soft today. Touch the color rose quartz pink. Let it remind you that you are still tender, still worthy, still blooming even if no one else is watching. This shade doesn't scream for attention. It radiates from within. Keep a small piece near you if you can, a crystal on your desk, a scarf, or even a journal with this hue. Let it be your quiet signal to the universe: I'm open now. I'm ready to receive, not by force, but through peace. And if numbers have been showing up in your life, perhaps 6, or 24, or 72, know that these aren't random. Each holds the vibration of care, harmony, and the completion of emotional cycles. These numbers are markers that you're on a path of realignment. A path where love isn't just something you give but something you become. Even the wisdom passed down through sacred teachings reminds us that growth doesn't come from constant striving. It comes from trust, from rest, from the willingness to be rooted in truth, not fear. So don't be afraid to pause and feed your soul with what it's been missing. The Empress doesn't beg for life to bloom, she simply creates the space where it can. And so do you. This is your moment to do less, but receive more. Not because you demanded it, but because you remembered your worth. There are certain moments in life when love doesn't just knock at the door, it waits, quietly, patiently, for your heart to become still enough to hear it. And in this moment, dear Libra, that kind of love may be closer than you think. The kind that doesn't just sweep you off your feet but sees your soul and wants to walk beside it. Whether this presence is someone from your past returning with new depth, or someone entirely new who feels strangely familiar, the energy surrounding you now is asking one essential question: are you ready to meet love in its most honest form? The Two of Cups is not the card of fantasy, nor is it rooted in infatuation. It's a sacred mirror. It reflects not what you wish someone would be but who they truly are, and more importantly, who you are becoming in their presence. This card signals the possibility of emotional reciprocity, mutual recognition, and a connection that moves beyond surface-level attraction into soul-level resonance. And for a Libra ruled by Venus, the planet of love, beauty, and balance, this is no small invitation. It's the moment when the heart aligns with the truth it's often afraid to speak. Up to this point, you may have been navigating emotional spaces where you gave more than you received, or where love felt more like a performance than a partnership. But this new energy doesn't ask you to perform. It invites you to show up honestly, fully, and unguarded. It doesn't demand perfection, but it does require presence. Because real love, not the curated version, not the one shaped to please others, is born through vulnerability, and nurtured through truth. And that truth starts with you. Ask yourself, gently, am I truly ready to receive a love that sees all of me? Not just the parts I've made acceptable, but the parts I've hidden in silence. Am I willing to give someone the chance to hold me not for who I've been, but for who I am becoming? These are not easy questions. But they are necessary ones. Because this chapter isn't about rewriting someone else's story, it's about letting yours finally be read out loud. If you're currently in a relationship, this is a beautiful time to release old assumptions and create a new emotional agreement. That might mean sitting down with your partner and speaking from your heart without a script. Not what you think they want to hear, not what you've rehearsed to keep the peace, but what's real for you. It's a space to rebuild, not from pressure, but from shared purpose. Because when love is rooted in understanding, not expectation, it grows in depth instead of demands. Even if no one has stepped forward yet, or if your heart still holds uncertainty, know this: the universe does not tease. The energy of the Two of Cups only arises when you're nearing alignment with someone or something that is ready to meet you halfway. Not chase, not rescue, not complete you, but mirror the growth you've done, the healing you've chosen, and the love you've finally decided you are worthy of. You don't need to rush into an answer. Love, like all sacred things, unfolds in layers. But what you can do now is begin to open. One thought, one breath, one brave step at a time. The beauty of connection doesn't lie in grand gestures, it's in the quiet moments when two people meet in truth and say, "I see you." And if you're brave enough to say that to yourself first, the right person will say it back, in their own timing, and it will feel like coming home. After exploring the possibilities of love and connection, the path now leads inward, not just emotionally, but physically. Your body, Libra, is more than a vessel. It is a compass, a sanctuary, and at times, a warning bell. And as you move through deep shifts in your heart and relationships, your body may start speaking in ways that your mind hasn't quite caught up with yet. A tight chest when you're around certain people. Restless sleep even when you're tired. A dull ache in your back when you're holding in emotions you can't yet name. These are not coincidences. They're messages. And right now, the most important step you can take is to listen, not out of fear, but out of love. Libra energy thrives in balance. But harmony is not something you chase outside of you, it is something you restore within. To do that, you must begin to recognize how deeply your physical state is intertwined with your emotional and spiritual well-being. Stress isn't always about pressure. Sometimes, it's about living out of alignment for too long. And when you're constantly prioritizing the peace of others, or holding yourself to impossible standards of calm and grace, your body becomes the silent keeper of your unspoken needs. This is a sacred reminder that caring for yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. You don't need to wait for a breakdown to justify rest. You don't need to earn your wellness through exhaustion. In fact, one of the most healing things you can do right now is simplify. Try gentle stretches that focus on opening your chest and releasing tension in the spine areas where Libras often hold unexpressed energy. Choose herbal teas that comfort the nervous system: peppermint for clarity, chamomile for calming, rose for heart healing. Let your breath become your anchor, breathing in for 4, holding for 4, releasing for 4. Just a few rounds of this can shift the tone of your entire nervous system, reminding your body that it's safe to let go. Sometimes, the body mirrors our emotional boundaries or lack thereof. If you've been feeling drained, notice who and what you've been giving your energy to. Have you taken on the responsibility of keeping others comfortable, even at the cost of your own well-being? As someone who naturally mediates conflict and soothes tension, it's easy to slip into the role of emotional caretaker. But healing isn't about always holding the peace. Sometimes, it's about releasing control and allowing others to face their own lessons, even if it means discomfort in the short term. You were not created to carry the weight of everyone's world. You were designed to shine with fairness, yes, but also with truth. And truth sometimes requires uncomfortable shifts. If you find yourself resisting change, ask yourself softly, am I avoiding this shift because it's wrong or because it might upset someone else? Growth often begins where pleasing ends. Your body is not the enemy of your progress, it is the messenger. It responds to every thought, every suppressed emotion, every delayed boundary. And like all sacred instruments, it requires tuning. Not through force, but through compassion. As you care for your body with intention, you create space for the next chapter to emerge with more energy, more clarity, and more joy than you imagined. This isn't about starting a wellness routine out of guilt. It's about returning to the truth that you are worth the care you give so freely to others. The miracle ahead of you needs a vessel strong enough to carry it. And that begins by honoring the one you're in. And now, dear Libra, as we arrive at the end of this sacred message, I invite you to pause, not to stop, but to truly feel the journey you've just taken. You began this reading with a quiet curiosity, maybe even a flicker of doubt. And yet, look at where you are now, more aware, more connected, more open to something greater than logic, something real that speaks in the language of the heart. This hasn't just been a message of comfort. It's been a call. A loving call to choose yourself, not in spite of the world, but because the world needs you in your full alignment, whole, grounded, and awakened to what truly matters. Through each moment we've shared today, from emotional clarity to sacred pause, from self-nourishment to deeper connection, and finally, into the body that carries it all, you've been given more than just insight. You've been given permission. Permission to slow down. To speak truth even if your voice trembles. To care for your body not because it's broken, but because it's holy. To open your heart again, not recklessly, but courageously. And most of all, permission to believe in a miracle not as a reward, but as a natural result of choosing yourself, moment by moment, breath by breath. So now I ask you, gently but honestly, what would change if you truly believed the miracle was already unfolding? Would you walk differently? Would you speak more kindly to yourself? Would you stop waiting for signs and start becoming the sign someone else is praying for? You are not powerless in this. The universe does not randomly bless. It responds to clarity. And your clarity is built, not from perfection, but from honesty, from saying, I want more, and then being willing to show up for that more, starting today. If this message stirred something inside you even just a little, I encourage you to ground it. Say it out loud. Write it below. Declare it to yourself and to the energy around you. Something as simple as, I believe in the miracle that is already mine. Your words carry creative power. Don't underestimate how one comment, one commitment, one yes to yourself can shift everything. And let me take a moment to speak from my heart to yours. Thank you truly for being here. For spending this time with me and with yourself. Every time you like, comment, or subscribe, you're not just supporting this channel, Zodiac Whisper Tarot, you're also creating a sacred ripple. A light for someone else to find their way through the dark. Your presence matters more than you know, and it is honored deeply here. You've been brave enough to listen, now be brave enough to act. Carry this message with you not as information, but as activation. Because you, Libra, are not here to live quietly inside someone else's idea of harmony. You're here to embody your truth so fully that your very presence becomes a miracle in motion. So stay with yourself. Trust what resonated. Release what didn't. And ask yourself one last question. What if everything begins to shift the moment I finally choose me? Because maybe, just maybe, that's where the real magic begins.